I guess we'll go ahead just get rolling with this. I guess we'll start like Sadio. Can you just give us like a quick background on you and like kind of your history with running and then where it's kind of like currently like going right now?
Yeah, so my name is sadio fenner. I used to run for the University of Nebraska, spent the last 6 years there, did 4 years as undergrad, 2 years in the master's program, headed to Florida State in the fall to do a PhD in exercise physiology. I currently run for the Trail Team Elite, which is I guess, called a professional development team for trail running. So I just finished up two U.S. championships, one for vertical mountain running, and then the one this past weekend was just mountain championships in Utah. Then I'll be headed to Italy to race in a World Cup race, doing long mountain running, I guess is what that's called. But that'll be, I guess, my next my next stop.
So yeah, I got a question about so you're studying, you say you're getting a PhD in exercise physiology, is that what it was?
Yeah.
What do you want to do with that?
The short answer would be I have no idea. The long answer would be I kind of want to better the space for athletes as a whole. I think and I'm sure you guys can attest to this being college athletes yourself, but a lot of these big time institutions and stuff, they have the money, they have the funding to have all of these resources and stuff available to student athletes. However, I don't think the people that are in those positions really understand how to maximize using all those resources and giving them to the student athletes in a way that really allows them to maximize their potential. So it's like you can have
Uh-huh.
in the field, but they don't know how to talk to each other. And so having somebody who kind of has an understanding of all of it, like I'm not saying I need to be an expert in everything, but if I can at least have an understanding of how like all the different things that make an athlete work, and then kind of like facilitate that conversation, then ideally what happens is everybody's able to maximize their potential. And it's not like, just the kids who are already good before they got to college are the ones that are benefiting from being at those institutions.
I like that. That's what my major right now is. Obviously I'm not doing PhD quite yet, but I love that actually. That's because I 100% can attest to that. I feel like a lot of programs like because you're talking about like sports overall, not even just like running, right?
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, like you look at like what an athlete is at its core, like we're all pretty similar. The only thing that really is different is the discipline that we are specializing in. Like we
Mhm.
all have to take nutrition seriously, we all have to take sleep seriously, and then obviously like the training component. But those are the ones that get talked about the most. The things that don't get talked about are things like sports psychology, like just your overall well-being. I mean, I think one of the most common misconceptions is like everybody has to do the same sorts of training. It's like, well, we're not all the same people. And so there's different things that are going
Mhm.
to affect us. And if you can understand how those things are going to impact, the athlete, then that's also going to have an impact on their training. I could say 100-mile training week is the same as like an 80-mile training week in the middle of a very stressful time during like your school year, just because the stress that's being put on your body is the exact same.
Okay, yeah, I love that. I love that. And like, will you ever go into any sort of like coaching position, you think? Like, is that a goal of yours at all, or just what
That's,
you've been talking about, just helping like overall with a athletic program?
yeah, I mean, I could definitely see myself being in that space. I mean, going to Florida State, I'm hoping to get some sort of like an assistant coaching job there. They just like their head coach for cross country just retired, so they're hiring somebody else. So ideally, I'll be able to talk with them and weasel my way in either as a volunteer or as a assistant and just kind of navigate from there. I mean, my whole thing is go into it with an approach of I know nothing so that I can learn from whoever else it is. And I mean, I feel like that's the approach you kind of have to have with all things. Like, I mean, even though I'm getting a PhD, I'm still going to pretend like I know nothing with a lot of the stuff that I do because there's a lot of doors that you close when you limit yourself to like what you can learn, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a love humble approach. That's awesome. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to what you're saying with the that race in Italy, when you're talking about like a long trail race, like what exactly does that entail compared to like the other races you've done?
So I am a rookie. I guess this is like my first year of doing any of this stuff. So I'm kind of getting thrown to the wolves, for lack of better words. So um, I've learned very quickly that trail running and mountain running are two very different things. Trail running, in my opinion, is a lot more gentle, I guess. Like it's still hard, but it's not nearly as brutal and hardcore as mountain running. Mountain running is exactly what it sounds like. It's you try to summit a mountain as quickly as possible, and then in some cases, it's how quickly can you get back down it as well. So the race that I did in New Hampshire, that was the vertical mountain running championships. That one was basically you start at the bottom of a mountain and you just run up to the top of it. So that was pretty brutal. The last half mile of that was just a black diamond ski hill. So uh,
Gosh.
you weren't really running. You were kind of crawling, pushing yourself, power hiking type deal. So that was really humbling because I mean, I'd like to think that I'm a pretty decent runner, but when you see like, I mean, this is his 25th U.S. title, and I want to say he's made probably like 17 something world teams, but Joe Gray is the one that won that race, and that dude's an absolute
Mm,
getting to toe the line with him was kind of crazy. There was a really talented field with that one this past week in Snowbird, Utah. That was a an up down race is what they call that. So essentially, it's like I said, you run up the top, come back down. So we summited Hidden Peak, and then got like a really sharp 500 like ish meter downhill section, and then right back up to the top of Mount Baldy, and then it was basically just 3,600 feet straight down the mountain. So that was pretty gnarly. So yeah,
yeah,
it's
that's sick.
hard to find stuff out here.
Dude, that's sick. Do so like so mountain running and like trail running, like are you still running on trails in mountain running? Like, is there still like trails going up, or is there times you're like almost like scrambling up them?
This one was kind of interesting for me because I mean the first two races I did were like pretty much on trail. I feel like it was like, you knew where you were going for a majority of it. This one, you still knew where you were going because they had orange flags all over the place. It was really well marked. But as far as like traditional trail, I wouldn't really say it was anything like that. The first bit of the race was pretty much like 500, or I'm sorry, 800 meters of just like downhill. So we were cooking pretty fast. And then you turn, you start a climb, and the climb is on like fire road. So it's like double track, a lot of dirt, big rocks and stuff. And then as you approach the summit, then it just turns into like you're above tree line. So we started at 8,000 feet to put that in perspective. And
Gosh.
we were topped out probably close to around 11,000 feet. So when we were up there, it's essentially like, you're running on these bigger rocks. There's a couple things that look like trail, but you're really just ridge running. And then on the way down, we had some really loose gravel, which was kind of scary at some points. I mean, I really got to be careful how I say this, but I mean, it's terrifying. There was a kid
Hmm.
who had to get like airlifted off the side of the mountain because he fell off, and that was really scary.
Oh my gosh.
And then another guy fell in front of me and basically like impaled his leg on a rock. Same deal there. Had to put a tourniquet on it and get pulled off the mountain. So this stuff is it's pretty hardcore. It's not for the faint of heart for sure. So I mean, if you finish any of those races, hats off to you. 'Cause that stuff is like I said, it wasn't at all as I was expecting. In my head, I was like, oh, you're just gonna be running on the side of mountains. It'll be fun. I mean, it's fun, but it's a different type of fun. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it was really awesome. There were snow fields, there were like just rock fields, some places where you could be glissading at some points.
Man, I did not know it was that hardcore. That's wild.
Yeah,
Um,
I think trail running and mountain running are very underrated.
yeah, that's sick. I like I almost feel like I feel like I'm at like I feel a little like ignorant about it. Like how you like you always get at people always ask like what's the difference between track and cross country. That's kind of how I feel asking about the difference between these races. But that's like yeah, I didn't know there was like people like getting airlifted and stuff out of like races. That's sick. That is yeah, gnarly is the perfect way to describe that.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about like cross country, it's in some ways it's kind of like cross country, but just like on steroids. Like imagine the worst thing
Yeah.
ever done in cross and make it 10 times worse, and then put it on the side of.
Yeah.
I mean, it is really interesting because like you, at least for the first half of most of these races, like you're pretty packed up with a bunch of people, and then obviously like as these climbs start, then it strings out a little bit. So you might get one or two people that are still with you, but you'll figure out pretty quickly, like based off people's strengths. Like if you're a really strong climber, you're gonna drop people, and if you're really strong on descending, then you're gonna again drop people there too. Because I mean, and I'm still learning a lot about descending. I have a little too much self-preservation, I guess. I'm not really ready to full sail it off the side of a mountain yet, but I mean, it's really humbling when you get to watch like some of the elites do this stuff. I mean, Christian Allen, who was on the team last year before he got signed with Nike, he won the race this past weekend, and it's awesome to see somebody like him do it because um, I mean, he had what 18 minutes on me, like in that race, and I mean, given what we're doing and you look at how quickly he's going down some of these like really loose, kind of sketchy downhill sections, it's like that's crazy that, like you're able to do that moving at the speed that you are.
Oh yeah. And this the race you're doing in Italy, is that you said it's a long mountain race, correct?
Yep.
And so will that like is it, I mean, I'm assuming it's like a long because most of these races except I know a couple people who've done mountain races. Most of them are still only like they're only, I correct me if I'm wrong, they're still usually only like 5, 6, 7 miles, aren't they? Or are they longer?
So it depends on what you're doing. So I'm classified as sub ultra, which means I do any distance under marathon, basically. Um, the races I've been doing so far. So my first trail race was a 20 20K in Vale, basically same deal up the side of a mountain.
Okay.
Then I did a relay race, which that one was really, really tough because same deal. It's just basically how many times can you get up and down this black diamond ski hill. The vertical mountain race I did was a 10K, um, and that had 3,200 something feet of elevation gain with like
Good
no.
Lord.
The one I did this past week was just mountain championship, so that was, oh, call it 9 miles. It was like 8.9 something, but that one had 3,650 something feet of elevation gain and drop. If you think about it, you got to come back down. And I'm prepping for this one. The one in Italy, like I said, that's a World Cup race, so it's part of their World Cup like final series. So a lot of really big name people are going to be out there, which is a little intimidating. And then I look at the distance for it, and that just makes it worse because it's 32K, so that's somewhere in the realm of like 20 plus something miles. And then it's got 8,000 feet of vert in it, so that'll be that'll be a bit of a grinder, but prepping for
If
and stuff.
people So people can understand like how much climbing that is. Like the highest point in Arkansas is 2,753 feet. So that's climbing from sea level. That's like, yeah, it's like he's running from sea level to the highest point in Arkansas, like way more than that. Like 1,000 feet more than that. So I hope that puts into perspective how much climbing he's talking about. Like that's ridiculous. I mean, it's literally running up mountains. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
So,
it's something. It's I think one of the things it's like really hard for me to just kind of compartmentalize is, I mean, you guys as cross country runners, like, I mean, I can think of plenty of times when we're out on the course and there's a hill that's there and it's like, okay, this hill is only like, anywhere from 400 to like 800 meters long. Like that's long, but it's not that bad. And then I
mhm.
put myself in these races now and it's, I mean, the ascent portion of this last race was like I said, it's roughly 9-ish miles, but you had like 4.9 miles of actual climbing. So it's like it just felt like it never ended. And that's just like that's a different kind of hurt because your thighs are screaming at you, your calves are super tight, you're on a steep incline. And then of course you get like a really sharp like decline as soon as you get to the top. So it's like your legs are jelly, you're trying to stay upright. It's tough.
Man, making the Oklahoma State cross country course seem a lot easier now after talking to
Yeah,
you.
listen, I'll take OSU over any of these mountains.
So how do you like with these races being like so much different than obviously like cross country and track, like what is the preparation like for these?
So I'm still learning what that looks like. I mean, it's been kind of different. So I'm part of like what this team is trying to do, I guess, is taking people from collegiate track and then kind of trying to transition them to trail. I'm still a bit of a hybrid, so I want to do both trail and track post collegiate. So as far as right now goes, it was like I came off of the Big Ten championships in May and took about maybe not even 3 days off from that and essentially just kept my volume up. So I was running like 60 to I got up to like 90. I had a lot of traveling and stuff going on during that time. So I wasn't too concerned with like working out. It was more so just making sure my volume was still up. And then I did some like an introduction to trail running, like as far as like up tempo type deal. So I went to Red Rocks and essentially just did like a 6 mile threshold run out there, which I came to find out you will never be running as fast as I did during that little bit there. So uh, it really, like, I guess, I misinterpreted, I guess, like what trail running is. I mean, one of the biggest things is like pace is pretty irrelevant. It's all about effort. So when I did that workout, I was like, I need to be hammering like 6 flat pace. But when you're out on the mountain, like I mean, the winner of this race, and like I said, this is a like he's made multiple world teams now. Like his average pace is like 9:30. So six flat
Hmm.
and 30 are like, I mean, most people hear 9:30, they're like, oh, that's really slow. But then you think about like what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's Holland. So yeah, my training right now, I mean, I'm just doing a bunch of like hill work, threshold stuff. Not really worried too much about speed. And I think pretty much after I get back from Italy, my plan is just to kind of like rebuild, do a lot more like base work, long miles. I think I might hop in the trail marathon championships in October and November, kind of to see what I can do there. And then after that, kind of reset again, just do a lot of like base building and then try to transition back to doing more like quicker things, I guess. So like more like road training. That'll just equate to track.
Interesting. And so like you say a lot of like the workouts are this is something I've always been curious about this. So you do like a lot of steady state stuff. Is that but like you said, it's effort based, but is that primarily the kind of workouts like you'll do whenever to like get prepared for the races?
So if I'm actually like preparing for a race, and I thought this was kind of backwards, but it worked out really well. Like this past week, as far as like race prep goes, my thing was just like easy running every day. Like I didn't do a single
Oh,
workout
okay.
to the race. I just did like I think I did a 4 mile run, a 7 mile run, an 8 mile run, and then the day before the race, I literally just hiked. Like I didn't even run that day. I
Hmm.
just kind of called it because I mean, you think about it, you're going to be stressing your body a lot. So just making sure that you're fresh and ready to go. Because I mean, you think about it when we talk about like doing a 9 mile run, like just flat running somewhere, that's only going to take us, an hour at most for the most part, like unless you're really dogging it. But for these races, like you're going to be out there for, I mean, anywhere from an hour 20 on back. So um, just making sure that again, like your body is not tired going into it is really, really important. Because I mean, I'll tell you from experience, if you're already hurting before you get there, it's just way, way more uncomfortable and way more miserable for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing if your body's not cooperating, but like if your headspace is just not good, then the race is over for you, like before it even starts.
Yeah, I hear you. And and then also, yeah, just in general, like workouts that you do for like, how does training for a trail run? Obviously, you'll be running more on like trails and stuff like that. How does the training differ from that from like typical cross country?
You know,
Um,
this is again, like I say, it's not that different. Part because like
mhm,
I'm still doing a lot of like threshold work. Like I mean, right now my main focus is like I said, just threshold. So just making sure that like I'm doing work where my system is being taxed aerobically, but I'm not really in that anaerobic zone. If I want to get
mhm,
like any anaerobic work, then I'm just going to do like hill repeats. So I do a lot of like 20 by 200 on some pretty aggressive like hills. So just making sure again, like I'm getting that good turnover. But I think me personally, like one of the things that I've learned that I struggle with is that like I'm not strong, as least I'm not as strong as I thought that I was on hills as far as like, I can handle hills if they're cross country distance, but like when it's like these 4 5 mile long climbs, like that's a entirely different like level of hurt. I think the easiest way to compare that would be like speed endurance when you're talking about like an 800. It's like that type of hurt,
mhm.
but you're doing it for
Oof.
45 something minutes. So yeah, I mean, trail running is very different from track in my opinion. Like again, if I had to explain how it feels, I think the easiest way to say it is that it's like you feel how you do in the last 400 meters of a 5K from the time the gun starts, and you're basically just redlining the entire time.
That's gnarly. That's sick.
Yeah, so it's learning to get uncomfortable and like knowing that like it's gonna be okay. Because I mean, while your legs and your body feel like you're flying, like your heart rate doesn't necessarily reflect that. I mean, like I'll look down at my watch and I'm like, wow, like I'm breathing really hard. I can taste blood. Like I feel like I'm working too hard. And then I look at my watch and it's like, oh, okay, my heart rate's actually like 160. So if I wanted to, I could push a little bit harder. But then it's like you got to be smart and know, like if I push now, am I going to be able to finish? Or if I push now, is that going to screw me in a later section, like where I'm going to need to be able to keep moving uphill. So it's just being really smart about those types of things.
I love that. That's sick. That's really cool. Was the transition from, because I know you talked about this kind of like this team kind of does this, but was your transition from collegiate like track and field to this trail running, like would you say it was pretty smooth, or I mean you probably are still even in the process of transitioning a little bit, but like what are your thoughts on that? Like what are your experience with it so far?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I'm very, very new to it. Like I said, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a pro. I understand everything because I definitely don't. If anything, I tell you, I still know nothing. Even this is like my third race. I mean, I'll say, hats off to the guy that runs the program. First off, like I wouldn't be in this position if he hadn't reached out to me. But Andy Wacker, he's a very, very accomplished trail runner. He runs professionally for Solomon.
He
He's
used to start for CU, right?
yep, used to run for CU, so
Yep,
he's
yeah, I know him.
very
Yeah, I love
familiar
him.
to the trail or to the track scene. So I mean, he's very supportive again of like having athletes doing both track and trail. But I think his whole thing for like how he explains why he wants to do this is, like I said earlier, with like Joe Gray, he's a very accomplished trail runner, but he's also in his 40s. So it's like, how are 40-year-olds still winning this stuff? Like when we could have younger guys like taking over. So I think he's just trying to get more and more people in the sport, which has been great because I mean the fields are getting more and more competitive with younger guys hopping in. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, as far as my transition goes, it was basically like I said, I finished my track season and it was like, all right, cool. I guess I'm racing a trail race in 2 weeks. So we'll just see what happens. And I mean, it's some things go hand in hand. I mean, like being in track helps because like from a like just overall speed point, like I can handle some of the downhill stuff a little bit better than some other people. It just depends on how technical the downhill is. If I get hit with like like a nice fire road or like just a dirt road that doesn't have any like big rocks or anything like that, like I can fly down that. And I mean, it sounds crazy for me to say this, but like the last three races I've done, I'm finishing like some of these downhill sections with like top paces at like 327 mile pace. But like again, you got to put that in perspective with like,
Hmm.
if the climb is super steep, then the downhill's also going to be just as steep. So you're basically flying, losing out of control. So you got to be careful with
Hmm.
that too. But again, if you have the track speed, like you can handle doing that a little bit better than other people. Um,
Hmm.
but again, then like I also trade that off with like I might not be like as strong of a climber as other people because like I'm more to speed oriented. So that's definitely been a massive learning curve is like, I need to just keep working on the strength aspect of it, which is why I'm doing that threshold work where it's like I'm not really doing um too much interval stuff. I mean, I do some double thresholds where I'll dabble with that a little bit just to keep the turnover there. But like I said, the main bit
Hmm.
is just focusing on staying strong. But yeah, I mean, I my training hasn't changed a ton from track. I mean, I'm still doing like the same distance of runs for the most part.
Hmm.
It's changed a little bit just to be sure that like I'm not cooking my system. I don't be running 6:30 pace all the time. Like I'll run, you know, 6:30 at the fastest and like I mean I'll even slog it at like 8 minute pace just to make sure that my legs are like truly getting recovered just so that I'm ready to race.
Yeah, so obviously we both do like the smarter training for faster running camp. Can you give kind of like a something brief on like kind of how you got started with that and like what your experience has been with that so far?
Yeah. So I was in eighth grade, and one of my teammates from my middle school had transferred, or I guess moved in from Kansas. And so I wasn't too serious about running at the time. Like the whole reason I even got into running was because my mom couldn't pick me up from school. So essentially it was like, hey, I'm putting you in cross country. That's the only thing you can do as a sixth grader. And you're just going to run whatever they tell you to at practice, grab your backpack, run home. Did that for a couple of years and hated it. But he came in and his mom was like, I think you could be a good runner if you like actually cared about this. So I think going to this camp will be good for you. You'll meet more people and get some good knowledge. And so I went and, anybody that's been around Ramsey will tell you that Pueblo, so that was my first year. That was arguably one of the worst years of camp just because there's a lot of things that didn't go well. But I mean, I loved it because I learned a lot, made a lot of really good new friends that like have still stuck with me through now. And I mean, that same knowledge every single year I come back, I still learn something new from him. So um, it's been super great, really beneficial. And I don't think I would be where I'm at right now as a runner without it. Part just given the connections that he has, but also, like I said, just that knowledge um, in different spaces. Because again, like I said, I want to take a more holistic approach to athletics where you're looking at people as people and not so much as you're an athlete, you're a number, that's it. And I think that's something that Ramsey really just like built this program around, and that's something that I gravitate towards. So that's been like again just one of the reasons why I keep coming back as a counselor every year.
Or so yeah, you talked about you're going to Florida State next. What is your kind of plans like running there? Are you going to try and like stick with the trail running while you're there? I know you mentioned you also want to try and do some more track races.
Yeah, so originally my plan was like I was gonna finish whatever trail races and then I was just gonna like hop into a cross country season. And then the more I've thought about it, the more I've talked to other people, it's like do I really like cross country that much? Where it's like I'm willing to like take out a whole block of like solid training just to focus on like maybe having some mediocre races because I didn't really have too much of a strong like summer build like I would normally have. And so I said, you know what, that's a good point. So kind of just forego that, just do some more longer base building type weeks because I mean that's more or less what I'm going to need for a marathon build. So like I said, like for the sake of the trail, like marathon championships. That's probably going to be my next goal. So that would be in, I think there's a half and a full both in October and November. And one of them is in Arkansas, so I might find myself down that way. The other one I think is in Wisconsin. But yeah, after that, essentially what it would look like is just between the months of like right after I finish whatever the last race is, take 2 weeks of like just hard reset and then just build back up to like 80, 90. Um, take more like of a road approach to it, I guess, as far as like you're doing more threshold, longer stuff, a little bit quicker, obviously, than what I'd be doing for trail. And then if I feel like I want to hop into some track races, probably like around March, April, I'll start hopping in those types of things because I mean, Florida State and just the East Coast have a lot of races that are all within close
Mhm.
proximity.
Yeah.
But Florida relays, rally relays, Florida State obviously hosting whatever meets they'll host. And then obviously, like I'm also a hop skipping away from Arkansas and Alabama, so there's a lot of stuff
Mhm.
right there. So that's one option. The other thing would just be like, you know, if I feel like I just really want to keep working on just getting stronger, just essentially just take the next year or so just to build and then just do trail. And then the following year, really focus on track and just getting that speed and all that stuff back.
I guess kind of this will probably be like just kind of wrap it up a little bit. Is so uh, I feel like so not I feel like even with like runners, like cross country runners, high school runners, and collegiate runners, not a ton of them know much about like mountain and trail running. At least like I mean I know a little bit about it, but I'm not like super familiar with it. Do you think that it's something that people need to start like looking into as like a potential to move into after either a high school career or a collegiate career, or is it like do you think it's a good route that a lot of people that people should be more open to?
I mean, it depends on who you are. I mean, like if you're not agile, if you're not like mentally strong, I don't think it's for you. And I mean, that's just me being completely honest part because I mean,
Mhm.
this stuff is not easy. Like I said, I mean, you're fighting demons for hour 30, and if like you already have a hard time doing without with like a mile or a 5K even, like this is going to be exponentially harder than that. I mean, I will say one of the benefits of trail is that it's like I said, it's very underrated. Not a lot of people know about it, and there's more money to be had there than there is on track. So, I mean, you see all these people like, oh, I want to go pro for track. I want to do this. I'm like, that's great, but it's like even the 1% of the 1%, most of them aren't sponsored. I mean, you see how long it took Eric Holt to get sponsored, and he's pretty damn.
Mhm.
So it's like just knowing things like that, like, you know, what are you in it for? Are you in it for trying to make money? Are you in it for just having fun with it? Um, I mean, I will say just in the few races I have done, like there's a lot more opportunity that I've seen in trail than there is on track. And if you can maximize what you do on trail, there's a chance that, like I said, you can still apply that for track. Because I mean, if you get a shoe sponsor like Nike, then you can continue to wear Nike stuff on the track, which is great. Um,
Mhm.
so I think one of the biggest things too is, like I said, like there's prize money involved. So most track races don't have prize money, but I mean, trail, like this race that I was just at, first place got $1,000, second place got 250, and then third place got 150. And a lot of races are set up like that. The ones in Europe go even deeper, so it'll be like first through 15th will get prize money. So I mean, if you're in it for money,
Wow.
way to to get some stuff too there. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that's just stuff people got to keep in mind. It's like, why are you running, and what exactly is you want to get out of it? Like for me, it's I want to push my limits and see how far I can go with it. So I'm kind of happy with whatever I get, but right, it's like I
Mhm.
said, it comes down to whatever you want to get out of it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I love that.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, we're pretty much out of time. I think it might kick us off here in a second. But thank you for taking the time to join this. Um, yeah, I think it was a really awesome conversation. Me and Noah definitely learned a lot, and it was a really cool story to hear. And good luck in Italy.
Yeah, thank you. And like I said, if you guys ever need anything from me, you know where to find me. Of
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
course. Thank you guys.
Yep.
Yeah,
See ya.
you too.